People do not fall in love by accident. What seems like chance or chemistry is, in truth, the meeting of unconscious forces seeking recognition and completion. Love is never random. It is drawn by patterns within the psyche. Jung taught that what we call love is often the projection of inner images. The anima, the animus, the shadow cast onto another, making them appear charged with mystery, beauty, or danger. When someone falls in love with you, it is rarely about who you are in your fullness. It is about what part of their own soul they see reflected in you. There are three fundamental reasons why this happens. The first is projection. They see in you the qualities they have disowned or longed for, and you become the screen upon which their unconscious is displayed. The second is resonance. Your presence awakens in them a familiar archetypal pattern, echoing wounds or desires rooted in childhood and carried into adult life. The third is authenticity, beyond projection and resonance. People are drawn to the rare presence of someone who embodies wholeness, who has begun to integrate shadow and self. Love, then, is never simply about attraction. It is a revelation of the psyche's deeper workings. To understand why people fall in love with you is to see how unconscious forces guide relationships and how love becomes not only a bond between two individuals, but a mirror of the soul's journey toward wholeness. People fall in love with you because they project their unconscious longings and disowned qualities onto you, seeing in you what they cannot yet face in themselves. Projection is one of the most powerful dynamics in human relationships, especially in the experience of love. Jung observed that when two people meet, it is not only their conscious selves that encounter one another, but also their unconscious realities. The psyche, in its complexity, contains images, desires, wounds, and potentials that the ego cannot acknowledge or integrate. These disowned elements are pushed into the shadow or repressed, yet they do not vanish. Instead, they are cast outward onto others, who then seem mysteriously charged qualities that fascinate, overwhelm, or intoxicate us. This is why love so often feels like destiny or enchantment. It is not merely attraction to another's actual traits, but recognition of something within ourselves, reflected back in symbolic form. Projection makes the beloved appear larger than life. When someone falls in love with you under the sway of projection, you become, in their eyes, not only a person, but a symbol. They may idealize you, elevating you into perfection. Convinced you hold the answers to their emptiness, they may see in you strength, beauty, wisdom, or vitality that they cannot claim in themselves. This elevation explains the intoxicating quality of infatuation. The other seems to radiate divinity, as though touched by a numinous force. But the truth is that this force comes not from the beloved alone, but from the unconscious of the lover, which has poured its energy outward. You are not seen for who you are, but for what you represent in their inner world. The anima and animus are archetypal figures most often projected in romantic love. A man who has not integrated his anima, his inner feminine, may project her qualities onto a woman who then becomes for him the embodiment of mystery, vitality, and soulfulness. A woman who has not integrated her animus, her inner masculine, may project his qualities onto a man who then becomes for her the embodiment of strength, authority, and direction. In both cases, the beloved seems to complete what the lover lacks within. Falling in love then often arises from this unconscious search for wholeness through projection. What is denied inwardly is sought outwardly, and the beloved becomes the vessel for the lover's unclaimed depths. Yet projection is not limited to anima and animus. People also project their unlived potentials onto others. A person who longs for adventure but lives a cautious life may fall in love with someone bold and risk taking because that quality resonates with their repressed desire. A person who fears their own aggression may fall in love with someone assertive, admiring in the other what they cannot yet embrace in themselves. A person who denies their vulnerability may fall in love with someone sensitive, drawn to the tenderness they have exiled. In each case, the beloved embodies what the lover has disowned. Love becomes the psyche's attempt to reunite with its own missing parts by locating them in another. This explains why love can feel both exhilarating and dangerous. Exhilarating because the projection reconnects the lover with aspects of their own soul. Dangerous because the beloved can never truly embody all that has been projected. Eventually reality intrudes. The idealized partner reveals their flaws, disappointments emerge, and the projection collapses. What once seemed transcendent now seems ordinary or even disappointing. Many relationships end at this point as the lover feels betrayed by the dissonance between projection and reality. But this collapse, painful though it is, holds profound psychological significance. It is an invitation to reclaim the projected qualities, to integrate them consciously rather than seeking them solely in another. For the one being projected upon, this dynamic can be equally complex. When people fall in love with you because of projection, they may treat you as though you are larger than life, expecting you to embody qualities beyond your actual capacity. They may demand that you remain perfect, mysterious, endlessly supportive, or constantly inspiring. This can feel flattering at first, but it often becomes suffocating, for no one can live up to an archetype. Being the target of projection can lead to a sense of unreality, as though you are not seen for yourself, but for what the other needs you to represent. The relationship may feel imbalanced, built more on fantasy than authenticity. Recognizing projection at work is therefore crucial for both people. For the one falling in love, awareness allows them to ask, what qualities am I seeing in the other that might also exist within me? What am I idealizing and why? What does my attraction reveal about my own disowned desires for the one being loved? Awareness allows them to ask, am I being seen for myself or for what I symbolize? Am I being burdened with expectations that reflect the other's inner world more than my actual being? These questions transform projection from a trap into a path of growth. Projection is not purely negative. It is, in fact, a natural and often necessary stage of love. Without projection, people might never be drawn to one another with such intensity. It is projection that gives love its numinous quality, its power to break open the heart and awaken the soul. The danger lies not in projection itself, but in remaining unconscious of it. If projection is recognized and eventually withdrawn, love can evolve beyond illusion into authenticity. The qualities once projected outward can be integrated inward, and the relationship can become a partnership between two whole individuals rather than a dependence on fantasy. This process mirrors individuation, the central task in Jung's psychology. Individuation is the journey toward wholeness, the integration of all parts of the psyche. Falling in love through projection can serve as a catalyst for this journey, for it reveals what is missing within. By seeing what you project onto another, you discover what you must reclaim in yourself. The beloved becomes a mirror, reflecting not only who they are, but who you are meant to become. In this sense, love is not only about relationship, but about self-discovery. The one you fall in love with is both a partner and a symbol of your own unconscious depths. The collapse of projection, though painful, is therefore an opportunity for transformation. When the beloved fails to embody the archetype, the lover faces a choice to abandon the relationship in search of a new projection, or to integrate the qualities that were once projected. Those who choose the latter path find that love matures. It becomes less about illusion and more about reality, less about fantasy and more about authenticity. The beloved is no longer worshipped as an archetype, but cherished as a human being. This is the beginning of true love, which does not depend on projection, but on the meeting of two integrated selves. Still, projection never disappears entirely. The psyche always contains unconscious material, and relationships will always carry projections. The task is not to eliminate projection, but to become aware of it, to recognize when it is at work, and to use it as a guide to self-knowledge. Every time someone falls in love with you because of projection, they are revealing something about their own psyche. And every time you fall in love with another, you are being shown something about yourself. To approach love with this awareness is to see it not only as romance, but as psychology, not only as attraction, but as individuation. This awareness can also protect you from the dangers of projection. If you are the one being idealized, recognizing the projection can help you avoid being trapped by unrealistic expectations. Instead of trying to live up to the fantasy, you can gently encourage the other to see you as you are, while also inviting them to claim the qualities they have projected. If you are the one projecting, awareness can prevent the collapse of projection from turning into disillusionment. Instead of blaming the other for not being perfect, you can thank them for revealing what you need to integrate. In both cases, awareness transforms projection from a source of suffering into a source of growth. At its deepest level, projection in love reveals the psyche's longing for wholeness. People fall in love because they see in another what they cannot yet see in themselves. They are drawn not only to the other's actual traits, but to the symbolic reflection of their own soul. Is therefore not accidental, but archetypal, a movement of the psyche toward integration. To understand this is to see love not as a mystery beyond explanation, but as a mirror of the unconscious. When people fall in love with you because of projection, they are not only seeing you, they are seeing themselves reflected through the mirror of your presence. People fall in love with you because your presence resonates with their archetypal patterns, reawakening deep desires, wounds, or familiar dynamics rooted in their past. Jung taught that the psyche is shaped not only by individual experiences, but also by archetypes, universal patterns of human thought, feeling, and behavior that exist in the collective unconscious. These archetypes structure how we experience relationships, how we seek love, and how we interpret intimacy. When someone encounters you, it is not simply that they are attracted to your personality or appearance. It is that something in you activates one of these archetypal patterns in them. You awaken not just personal feelings, but something far deeper. Echoes of their earliest bonds, their deepest wounds, their hidden longings. This resonance can feel fated, as though you were destined to meet, because it draws from the timeless language of the unconscious. One of the most powerful patterns that influences falling in love is the archetype of the parent. Every person carries within them the imprint of their first relationships. The bond with mother, the bond with father, or with whoever played these roles. These early experiences shape expectations of love, security, care, and recognition. When someone meets you, they may unconsciously perceive in you qualities that echo these early figures. If they experienced warmth and nurturing from a caregiver, they may be drawn to you because you evoke the same safety. If they experienced neglect or rejection, they may still be drawn to you because your presence resonates with the unresolved wound, offering a chance to relive and perhaps repair it. This is why love can feel both comforting and painful, both nourishing and destabilizing. It is not only about the present, but about the past seeking expression and healing through you. Archetypal resonance is not limited to parental figures. Lovers may also embody the archetype of the divine beloved, the image of the soul's completion. Mythologies across cultures describe the union of opposites, the search for the other half, the reunion of souls. When someone falls in love with you, they may feel as though they have found their missing piece, the one who completes them. This feeling does not arise simply from your traits, but from the archetypal longing for unity that resides in every psyche. You become a symbol of the self, the wholeness they unconsciously seek. The attraction is therefore not only personal, but archetypal, charged with a numinous quality that feels sacred beyond reason, as though guided by forces greater than either of you. But resonance also emerges from wounds. Jung observed that unresolved pain from childhood often shapes adult love. Someone who was abandoned may be to you because your presence awakens the hope of being chosen. Someone who was criticized may fall in love with you because you seem to offer affirmation. Someone who longed for affection may be captivated by your warmth. These dynamics are not purely rational. They are rooted in the psyche's attempt to heal itself by seeking out relationships that mirror unresolved wounds. Falling in love becomes a way of revisiting the past, of attempting to rewrite the story through a new connection. This is why relationships so often repeat familiar patterns, both nourishing and destructive. When someone falls in love with you because of resonance, they are drawn not only to who you are, but to the possibility of healing through you. However, the danger is that this resonance can also trap them in cycles. If they have not integrated their wounds, they may unconsciously seek to recreate them rather than heal them. Someone neglected as a child may choose partners who withhold love, repeating the pattern of longing and disappointment. Someone controlled in childhood may be drawn to controlling partners, replaying the same dynamic. When they fall in love with you, it may be because you resonate with a familiar role in their unconscious drama, even if that role is painful. This resonance can be intoxicating precisely because it feels familiar, as though they have known you forever. Yet it may be less about destiny than about repetition. The psyche seeking to relive its patterns until consciousness intervenes. Archetypal resonance also explains why attraction often defies logic. Someone may fall in love with you even when you do not fit their conscious preferences or ideals. They may be surprised by their feelings, unable to explain why you captivate them. This is because the attraction arises not from conscious choice, but from unconscious resonance. Something in you speaks to their archetypal patterns, bypassing reason and igniting a response they cannot control. This is why love is often described as irrational, overwhelming, or fated. It is not governed by logic, but by the timeless structures of the unconscious. Your presence may also awaken archetypal desires for transformation. Jung described the lover as a catalyst for individuation, the process of becoming whole. When someone falls in love with you, they may feel not only affection, but the stirring of growth, the sense that your presence calls them to become more than they are. You embody for them not only companionship, but initiation. Love becomes a threshold, a doorway into deeper consciousness. This resonance with the archetype of transformation explains why love often disrupts ordinary life. People leave careers, change lifestyles, or redefine themselves under its influence. They are not merely responding to you as an individual, but to the archetypal call to grow, and your presence has activated that call. This archetypal dimension also explains the intensity of projection. When someone falls in love with you through resonance, they may not see you as you are, but as the carrier of the archetype. You are not only a person, but a symbol embodying the parent, the divine beloved, the healer, or the transformer. This idealization can be both beautiful and dangerous. It fills the relationship with numinous energy, but it also places unrealistic expectations on you. You cannot truly embody the archetype, for you are human. Yet they may demand that you do. When the reality of your humanity emerges, the projection collapses, often leading to disillusionment. Yet this collapse can also be transformative, forcing them to reclaim the archetypal energy within themselves, rather than relying on you to embody it. For the one who is loved, awareness of resonance can be illuminating. When you notice that someone is drawn to you with intensity that seems disproportionate to the relationship, it may be because you have awakened one of their archetypal patterns. Their love may be less about you personally and more about what you symbolize to them. This recognition helps you to avoid being overwhelmed by their projections. Instead of trying to fulfill the archetype, you can maintain your authenticity while gently encouraging them to recognize what within themselves is being activated. In this way, you protect yourself from being consumed by unrealistic expectations while also allowing the relationship to serve its deeper purpose. For the one who loves, awareness of resonance can also be transformative by asking, what does this person represent for me? What archetypal pattern is being activated? They can use their feelings as a guide to self-knowledge. If they see you as a healer, they may be revealing their own wound. If they see you as a savior, they may be confronting their own despair. If they see you as their missing piece, they may be searching for their own unclaimed wholeness. Love then becomes a mirror, reflecting not only the other person, but the inner landscape of the psyche. This understanding does not diminish the beauty of love, it deepens it. To see love as archetypal is to recognize that it participates in something larger than the personal. It connects individuals to the collective patterns of humanity, to myths and stories that have shaped cultures for centuries. When someone falls in love with you, they are stepping into this archetypal drama, enacting timeless patterns of longing, union, loss, and transformation. The relationship is not only about two individuals, but about the unfolding of the psyche's deepest truths. Yet with awareness comes responsibility. If love is rooted in resonance, then relationships must move beyond projection to authenticity. The task is to recognize the archetypal patterns at work and to integrate them consciously. Instead of expecting the beloved to heal the wound, one must confront the wound within. Instead of demanding the beloved embody the archetype, one must claim the archetypal energy for oneself. In this way, love matures from unconscious resonance to conscious partnership. The relationship becomes not a reenactment of the past, but a collaboration in the present where both individuals support each other's individuation. Ultimately, people fall in love with you because your presence awakens their deepest archetypal patterns. The longing for safety, the hunger for wholeness, the pain of wounds, the call to transformation. You resonate with their unconscious, stirring forces that lie beyond reason. This resonance can bind them to you with intensity that feels fated, for it speaks the language of the collective unconscious. To understand this is to see love not only as a personal emotion, but as an archetypal event, one that reveals the timeless structures of the psyche and invites both individuals into the deeper work of growth, healing, and individuation. People fall in love with you because authentic integration of yourself radiates wholeness, and the soul is irresistibly drawn to the rare presence of someone embodying inner unity. Most people live fragmented lives, torn between persona and shadow, between the conscious self they show the world and the unconscious forces they deny. This fragmentation produces longing, for the psyche is always striving toward wholeness. When someone encounters a person who has begun the work of integration, who carries within themselves a measure of harmony between light and dark, between masculine and feminine, between instinct and spirit, they feel something magnetic. They may not be able to explain it rationally, but the attraction is undeniable. It is not simply about physical appearance or personality traits. It is about the energy of wholeness, the quiet strength of authenticity, the radiance of someone who has faced themselves and emerged more whole. The self, in Jung's psychology, is the archetype of totality, the center that unites all opposites. To live from the self is to integrate the shadow, to embrace not only virtues but also flaws, to reconcile contradictions rather than repress them. Very few people undertake this task consciously, for it requires courage, honesty, and endurance. Yet, when someone has even partially aligned with the self, their presence communicates a depth that others instinctively feel. This depth is not about perfection, but about reality. Such a person does not pretend to be flawless, nor do they hide their wounds. Instead, they embody authenticity, and this authenticity radiates an energy that others mistake for love at first sight. In truth, what they are sensing is the presence of wholeness, and their soul longs for it, because it reflects what they themselves seek. The attraction to wholeness explains why people are drawn to those who appear grounded, balanced, or centered. When you have faced your shadow and integrated it, you no longer need to project hostility onto others. You can admit your flaws without being destroyed by them. You can embrace your contradictions without being torn apart. This creates a presence of stability, a sense of inner peace. Others still fragmented by denial or repression sense this stability and are magnetized by it. They feel safer in your presence, as though the chaos of their inner world could find order simply by being near you. Love arises not because you are offering them perfection, but because you embody integration. The psyche hungers for what it lacks, and wholeness is the rarest nourishment. Authenticity also creates trust. In a world where many wear masks, where the persona dominates interactions, the authentic person stands out. When you speak, others sense that your words are not manipulated for approval, but arise from truth. When you act, they feel the coherence between your inner being and your outer expression. This coherence is compelling because it is rare. People fall in love with you because they trust what they feel in your presence, that you are real, that you are not merely playing a role, that you are not concealing yourself behind illusions. This trust, often unconscious, awakens their longing for connection, for to love authentically requires trust. Without authenticity, trust is impossible. With authenticity, trust flows naturally. Another reason people are drawn to integrated authenticity is that it grants permission for them to be themselves. Many live in fear of their own shadow, constantly hiding aspects of who they are to fit the expectations of others. When they encounter someone who has embraced their shadow and woven it into their wholeness, they feel liberated. They realize, even if unconsciously, that it is possible to be flawed and still worthy of love, to be broken and still whole. This liberation awakens admiration, attraction, even love. For you become not only a person, but a symbol of their own potential for freedom. They fall in love with the possibility of being themselves, which you embody by being yourself. And integration of the self also radiates through presence. Presence is not something you consciously project, but something others feel. It is the aura of wholeness, the calm strength that comes from no longer being at war with yourself. When you are integrated, you do not need to seek constant validation, for you are not endlessly divided against yourself. This lack of neediness creates space for others to feel seen and valued, rather than drained by demands. They feel nourished in your presence because you are not taking from them to fill your emptiness. Instead, you are sharing from fullness. This fullness is irresistible. For most people live in scarcity of the soul. They are drawn to you because your presence reflects abundance, the abundance that comes from integration. Love that arises from authenticity is different from love rooted in projection or resonance alone. Projection intoxicates, but it collapses when illusions shatter. Resonance captivates, but it often entangles people in cycles of repeating wounds. Authenticity, however, creates enduring love, for it is not based on illusion, but on reality. When people fall in love with you because of your wholeness, the attraction may still carry projections and resonances, but it also carries a foundation of truth. They are responding not only to what you symbolize for them, but also to who you actually are. This authenticity allows love to evolve, to mature, to deepen, rather than to collapse under disappointment. It is important to understand that authenticity does not mean perfection. People do not fall in love with you because you are flawless, but because you are real. They fall in love with your ability to admit mistakes, to embrace vulnerability, to live honestly. They fall in love with the humanity you embody, not with an illusion of transcendence. Paradoxically, it is your wounds that often make you most lovable when those wounds have been integrated into wisdom. A scar that has healed radiates more strength than unbroken skin. People sense this strength, this depth, and they are drawn to it. They fall in love with the way you have turned suffering into meaning, darkness into light, fragmentation into wholeness. The attraction to integrated authenticity also reflects the archetype of the healer. In myths and traditions, the healer is often wounded, yet through their own healing, they acquire the ability to heal others. When you embody wholeness, others may fall in love with you because you awaken in them the possibility of their own healing. They may see in you not only a partner, but a guide, not because you seek to teach, but because your life itself becomes testimony to the possibility of integration. This does not mean you must take responsibility for their healing, but it explains the intensity of the attraction. Their soul responds to the archetypal truth. Healing is possible. Wholeness is attainable. Authenticity is real. Wholeness also awakens archetypal longing for unity. People fall in love because they sense in you the presence of integration, and their own fragmented soul yearns to join with it. They confuse this yearning with romantic love, but beneath it lies the deeper desire for their own individuation. You do not complete them, but you remind them of their own potential for completion. They are drawn to you because you embody a path they have not yet walked. Love becomes the psyche's way of reaching toward its own wholeness, using you as a mirror of what it longs to become. This is why the attraction can feel overwhelming, even sacred. It is not only about you as a person, but about the archetype of the self shining through you. Being the object of this kind of love can be both beautiful and burdensome. People may expect you to carry their wholeness for them, to heal their wounds simply by your presence. They may idealize you, confusing your integration with perfection. This can create pressure for no human can embody the self completely. You are still human, still limited, still in process, yet the attraction remains, because even partial integration radiates more wholeness than most people encounter. The task, then, is to remain authentic, to resist the temptation to play the archetypal role, and instead to invite others to discover within themselves the qualities they admire in you. Ultimately, people fall in love with you because wholeness is magnetic. The integrated self radiates an energy that transcends appearances, an authenticity that speaks directly to the soul. They are not only falling in love with you as an individual, but with the archetype of wholeness that you embody. Their attraction is the unconscious recognizing what it seeks, the fragmented self drawn to the integrated self, the longing for unity stirred by the presence of someone who has begun to embody it. This kind of love, when approached with awareness, can become not only a bond between two people, but a catalyst for transformation, leading both toward greater authenticity, deeper wholeness, and the unfolding of the self.